Some recent research came out of Cornell University and Western University, which is up in Canada, and they tested an email request for an ask, if you will. Will the person say yes or not? Psychologists call that compliance. Will the person say yes or not? An email request versus the exact same thing asked face-to-face. Guess which one has a higher compliance rate or a higher chance of a yes?
Face-to-face.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Guess this, I'm putting you on the spot. Guess what percent the face-to-face is better than the email?
90.
34.
Really?
Times.
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 Okay. All right.
Welcome to Industrial Sage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is Industrial Sage.
Okay, let's jump into this awesome episode. I've got Mo Bunnell from Bunnell Idea Group, and I'm super excited to have him here on the show. Mo, thanks so much for joining us
I'm
today.
excited.
This is awesome. So for those who aren't familiar with the famous Mo Bunnell, please tell us a little about yourself and Bunnell Idea Group.
Oh man, well I have sort of a weird background.
Okay, weird background.
Weird.
Right.
Yeah, let's start with weird.
Okay.
Is that how you usually open things up?
It's very normal. Yes.
I went to college to be an actuary. So most people don't know a lot of actuaries, but you're starting with pretty geeky stuff right away. And then while I was in school, I also loved the personal side of things too. So I loved being a deep expert in something, and I loved being the personal side of things. So I ended up joining a fraternity and being president of my fraternity. In my senior year, I got elected homecoming king.
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget my actuarial science professor, the guy who led the program. He held up the student newspaper on the week after I got named homecoming king, and he said, "You know, Mo, the odds of an actuary being named homecoming king are very low." So I always had 1 foot in an expertise and 1 foot in people skills.
Yeah.
And I thought it sort of led me to where I'm at, the kind of things I love to do.
That's awesome. So what are you doing now? You're doing actuarial work?
No, but I took all the actuarial exams. But I love helping people with business development, especially experts that have to figure out how to actually bring in business. Sort of 1 foot in an expertise and 1 foot in people skills. So that whole thing that started in college led to finish the actuarial exams, falling in love with business development at a big consulting firm I worked at. And then about 15 years ago, I left to go off on my own because I'd fallen in love with helping others learn great business development skills.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so so an actuary who sells,
Yeah.
right? Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
So you just recently released this really cool book called the Snowball System.
Yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, it flows right from what we just talked about. There's so many people out there that are deep experts in something, and they have to find people to buy it. And maybe they're in manufacturing, like a lot of your listeners and watchers and viewers, where an engineer might have to it might take 10 years of experience until they know enough about what their business can manufacture before they can actually go out and lead client relationships or lead customer relationships. So those folks that have a deep expertise and also have to find people to purchase it or purchase those services or goods, that's who the Snowball System is written for.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So I will say, we actually went, with Optimum, we went to, I'll pitch to the audience here. We went to they've got awesome training courses.
Yeah.
So this is through Mo Bunnell Idea,
Bunnell Idea Group.
I always get that confused, sorry.
Yeah.
Bunnell Idea Group. Done. All right, got that. Anyway, so they have public training courses back in February, maybe, I think, when we actually went. And it was awesome. And so it was a 3-day course, and I'm giving a commercial for it, so you should totally go. But one of the things that was interesting, we've all gone on a lot of sales, different training courses and different things. But one of the things that I loved about it is that it really just identified with our view in terms of the whole sales and marketing process. So, when we believe that we're generating leads online and creating that MQL, go to that SQL process, and there's this whole framework of how to get leads and moving them, process them through the funnel.
Yeah.
And then, once they're qualified, then, we start that relationship, that personal relationship. Not saying there's not a relationship beforehand, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so one of the super cool things that we loved was the whole methodology around sort of the thinking profiles.
Yeah.
So this is different. So for the audience out there, this was super duper cool because Mo starts talking about, and I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, just like the basic thinking profiles and how everyone thinks differently. And it's kind of like DISC. If you've done DISC or Myers-Briggs type assessment, it's kind of like that, but it's on steroids, basically. I'll just put it that way. So Mo, tell me a little bit about, for the audience who's not familiar, the methodology behind that.
Yeah.
Like what is this? What's HBDI?
Yeah, well, I love your parallel where, you guys do such great work in help people build digital brands and build a pipeline of interest and add value and content. Well, at some point, a human being has to talk to a human being before they're going to purchase something really big and customized, like what your viewers do. And one of the things that can really help that is understanding what the buyer is looking for from a value perspective and communicating your value in that language as opposed to how you might buy the services.
Yeah.
And the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument is the best tool we've seen that helps people figure out what the other side is looking for and how to communicate that with them. It's based in a ton of research. A guy named Roger Sperry, who actually won the Nobel Prize, is one person. There's a ton of other research behind it. And then a guy named Ned Herman figured out that there's 4 major ways people think. And they're based roughly on the physiological structure of the brain, where there's a sort of a cognitive part and there's a visceral part that's housed in the limbic system, 2 little walnut-sized lobes on the top of the brainstem. And then there's a left hemisphere side and a right hemisphere. So if you do upper, lower, left, right, you end up with a 2x2 matrix. And the 4 major ways people think, based on that, are 2 opposing pairs. One is very strategic, visionary, looking for innovative things. They want the next thing before it's ever been done before. The opposite of that is practicality. I want to know you've manufactured this thing for 10 people in my industry of about my market size or manufacturing plant size or production level. And by the way, I want to talk to every one of them, and I'm really going to call them, so give me the references. So you got innovation. I actually want to do what other people aren't doing versus practicality. I want to do what everybody else is doing. The other opposing pairs is sort of the facts versus the feelings. The data and show me that if I spend an extra $1 with you, I'm going to get $1.20 out within a year, versus relationships, feelings. Danny, I want to know you are going to deliver for me, and do I trust you, and I'm looking you in the eye to ascertain you give a dang about me, not just making a buck. Yep. Visionary, practical, facts, feelings.
Absolutely. No, I just think that's so awesome. So I share a story with you. So yesterday, we go to a sales meeting, new client. We're going into these creative sessions, and we jump in there. We're all, let's go. We're going to jump into this. We've already, essentially, it's already been sold. Let's go ahead and jump into this meeting, and boom, 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 let's go. Yeah. And the CEO there just stops and says, hey, hang on. So I'd like to know. You have 3 people here. Like, tell me your story. I want to know, each of you. I want to know your background and where you come from. And it's like, okay, and we very quickly we're like, oh shoot, we probably broke some protocols.
Skipped over that.
We skipped over some things, and we very quickly realized, okay, this is somebody here. Yes, they're the CEO, but they're very into the story. Let's get to know each other before we get really. So backed off the meeting there a little bit and said, let's just connect on a personal relationship. Let's get in. Let's get into that, and then we'll bring in all the other things. And I was so thankful for that. With some of that training that maybe I've forgotten a little bit, but remembered quickly.
But you remembered. You're like, oh yeah, this is important.
Absolutely.
And what happened? How did it turn out?
Actually, it turned out really well. It was a 2-hour meeting, and then we ended up at the bar afterwards. So
yes, I love it.
That is probably a good piece.
Yeah.
So
and what you just pointed out is so powerful. As a background as an actuary or say an engineer, these are really fact-based, logical thinking careers. So say somebody's an engineer, they're at a manufacturing plant, they've been at this organization 20 years, took 10 years before they had enough knowledge they could be an account manager, and they moved from that to sales, let's say. Now they're going out trying to find new customers and clients for their plant to, the manufacturing to support. Well, they might have a really high logical kind of thinking style, upper hemisphere left side. But when they meet with somebody that wants to build a relationship, they might plow over them with that and with all the logic. Go, well, yeah, I've got a family, whatever. Well, let's talk about our technical specifications again, and just hit them with facts. What you did was brilliant. You picked up a clue,
No,
you should,
because this guy.
You should feel great. But really, you realize, oh yeah, this person wants to make the purchase on us. And if we plow them over with how awesome our studio is and our technical specifications, our capabilities, and all these other stats, that he doesn't care. He's assuming, or she, assuming that we've got that or we wouldn't be in business. They want to know we give a dang about them. They want to hang out at the bar and hear about our families and have us ask questions about them. And that's what's going to create the yes at the end. So you flexed. So this ability to flex to the right one of the 4 quadrants is huge. It's so important. It's not taught in schools, and it's one of the most important parts about having a real deep long-term relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk too. It's just really. It's like, it's just talking in a different language.
It is.
And it was interesting because with Two Share, we had several issues where we had lost deals. And we're thinking, well, what in the heck? How did we lose this deal? Because we had everything lined up, we had it this way, and we talked about all these different things. And then it was interesting after we'd gone through some of the course, we were evaluating the thinking profiles. We're like, oh shoot. We are not, admittedly, sometimes not the most detail-oriented, here's the process and all these things. And we're like, we gloss over that. They don't care about that. We're excited about innovation and about, here's the things that we've done before. And you realize, that person actually really, or they really were very process-driven. They really wanted to hear these different steps. And shoot, that's probably why we lost it.
You might have been selling innovation, and what they really wanted is something that's tried and true that's been done 100 times before.
So anyway, just the course was very helpful for that. So I'm assuming that in the book, you get into a little bit of that? Just a little bit?
Just a hint. What's interesting is that little 2x2, those 4 quadrants are so powerful. We just gave one example, like an introductory meeting. But it also gets woven, and we go into great detail in the book, but also gets woven into how do you ask for the next step? How do you overcome objections? How do you talk about money? Well, you do it differently from the different lenses. How do you close the deal? How do you add value afterwards in a way that's far and above what the client or customer expected, so that they're going to become a raving fan? And then every single one of those steps has more behavioral science, psychology, neuroscience in it, which we cite in the back, over 30 studies. And then every little aspect of the buying system, if you will, creating a buy, is based in science and based in those 4 quadrants.
No, that's excellent. So, are there a couple little snippets we could pull out of here? What are some good examples out of here, just in terms of practical application that somebody from our audience might
I'll just give you one example and see if you like it.
All right,
because I think this might have come out after it's in the book, but it might have come out after you were in the training. I can't remember.
You're holding out on us. Okay.
This might be it. You'll have to tell me. You give me a grade. I'll get A through F here. Some recent research came out of Cornell University and Western University, which is up in Canada, and they tested an email request for an ask, if you will. Will the person say yes or not? Psychologists call that compliance. Will the person say yes or not? An email request versus the exact same thing asked face-to-face. Guess which one has a higher compliance rate or a higher chance of a yes?
Face-to-face.
Bingo. Guess this, I'm putting you on the spot. Guess what percent the face-to-face is better than the email?
90.
34.
Really?
Times.
Okay. All right. Well, you said
I set you up. I know. I said percent. That's another thing called anchoring, but we'll get over that. But 34 times.
Wow.
We have super powers when we're in person. And so many technical salespeople or account managers, because they might have more of a technical bent, they might be shy about asking something in person. Or maybe they don't are plantful enough. There's a process about planning for sales or business development meetings in the book that's incredibly fast, efficient, and powerful.
Awesome.
Yeah, right. You've been through that. So planning for our face-to-face times in a way that we've thought out everything that might go wrong, everything that might go right. What's our vision for the meeting? What are we going to ask for? Because we have so much of a better chance to get that yes in person than if, say, we wait till 2 days later and we ask for the same thing on email. It gets lost. It takes a month for somebody to reply. We turn into a nag. Hey, did you get my question? Following up on my email, following up on my voicemail. So that's just one little snippet of behavioral science that once you know how much powerful we are in person, boy, that makes you think, I need to plan better.
Yeah.
I need to think about that referral I might ask for. I need to figure out what is the next step I might ask for in my own selling process, things like that.
No, and that's awesome. I don't know. That example you have there totally resonates.
Were you thinking of meetings you had last week?
In a painful way? No, but absolutely. But I think, again, it's just, and it's been several months since we've gone through it.
Right.
And, we're still, drawing, there's so much there, really, that you continuously, can learn more and draw from. We haven't implemented everything with it.
Right.
But I just think it's really the basic foundation of saying, listen, just that understanding that not everybody thinks the way that you think.
It's huge.
And just that starting question and just that thought, okay, maybe I need to rephrase or represent something in a different way was very revolutionary for us.
Yep.
Absolutely.
There's one more piece I remember you talking about after the training. Do you mind if I...
Oh, please open the wounds.
No, I remember this, and I think it's particularly important for super technical salespeople and account managers at big manufacturing facilities. And do you remember the IKEA effect in building everything together?
I vaguely remember this. Oh, shoot. You put me on the spot here.
I know.
That's
well,
okay.
there is going to be a test. I've got it right here.
Darn it.
Well, I think it'd be interesting to your viewers, I'm pretty sure. The IKEA effect was first studied by Michael Norton out of Harvard and Dan Ariely out of Duke. And what they found was that people buy into what they help create. So let's say that, remember that?
I remember this.
Building everything together. In the study that they did, they measured this in dozens of ways. The way I liked the best was they gave people IKEA furniture that was already put together. And then they were asked to go sell that in a controlled marketplace. And people in the experiment thought they were being judged on how high they could negotiate a price for this IKEA end table, say. There were some different types of furniture. And if you have enough people do that, you can sort of create what's the average amount that a person can sell this furniture for. That's the control group. The experimental group was the exact same thing, except they had to put the furniture together first. Guess who sold it for more?
The people who put the furniture together.
You got it. Yeah. See, you passed the test.
Yes.
All right. But what's interesting about that, when we turn it to that concept on business development, is so many technical salespeople we see will meet with a client, customer, prospect, and the person says, he or she says, hey, can you send me a proposal on that?
Yeah.
They run back to the ranch, get 20 people together. They spend 30 people hours figuring out how they're actually going to run this through the plan, everything else, and they fire over a proposal without ever testing any of their ideas with anybody. We call it throwing it over the wall. And their chance of getting a no is very high because the person hasn't bought into it. They haven't built it with them. They haven't bought into what they helped create. A different process is if we can think about those four areas you led off with. What's the strategy? What's the process? What's the team we need to get it done, your side and our side, and what's the pricing? And we find when people get incremental yeses in the four major ways people think, verbally, over the phone, quick emails, back and forth, then when they fire the proposal over the wall, the person's already bought into all the major part of it. They're excited about getting it, and you got a high chance of a yes. So incremental yeses leads to an easy yes at the end. Doing it all yourself and throwing over the wall gets to a high chance of a no.
It totally makes a lot of sense. No,
what are your thoughts? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It's. I think there's two parts to it. One is getting, and you hear this a lot too, getting somebody just familiar with saying yes. Just say, I think it was one big thing is asking questions. Would it be helpful?
Yeah.
If we do, and if that's built into the process, into that step, so it becomes a little bit more like natural. Okay, But the other piece on it is going back to the IKEA effect is really, like I said, building that together with a team. So, like you said, it's a shared value, and we're approaching it as a us versus this is what we're going to do for you versus this is what we're going to do together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that phrasing even. Yeah.
So,
and you meet the folks who are watching this. You get to meet them all the time. Does this fit with what the viewer struggles with?
Absolutely.
Or deals with?
And it depends on who's specifically watching and what type of product they're selling. So, for example, if you've got we had a couple weeks ago, depending on when this episode hit, we had Craig Henry from the Siemens Digital Factory, and they're selling big industrial automation applications and solutions to warehousing. These are multi-million-dollar solutions, and it's not something that somebody's going to go to a website, click a button, and say, "We're buying."
I'll take 10 of those.
Right? Exactly. Although I'm sure they wish they would.
Can they be delivered in 2 days?
Yeah, well, they do. I'm sure ask for that. But the reality of it is that it's a long process. It's
customized,
it's very
I would guess. Yeah.
Slightly, that buyer versus somebody that's saying, I'm, need to buy 30 cryogenic tanks, for that whole, liquid nitrogen gas, or what have you. Some of it can be a little bit more commoditized versus others, but ultimately, when you're looking at that, you start getting a little bit more solution selling, and if you're working around, I'm not just selling you a product, I'm selling you a solution. That's where it makes a huge difference, because people could come in and totally say, we need 20 of these things. It's like, well, that might not necessarily be the right application, but we'll go ahead and send you the pricing and the proposal or whatever, versus jumping in. Well, it'd be helpful if we've got a guide for you. It would be helpful, we've got this webinar coming up that talks about, it's a fit guide on whatever this application or what have you with that, and doing that, because I think the challenge, I think everybody kind of struggles with this a little bit, is that there's a thing sometimes called the quota.
Yeah. I totally agree.
And and so there's this balance of like, I got to sell, I got to do this, we got to whatever, and let me look at my pipeline. I think that's a trick too. It's like, let me look at my pipeline revenue. Well, is it real pipeline revenue, or are we just inflating this? No, like, okay, yes, technically they could, but are they really going to? We're pushing the sale too early.
Right.
I think that's a big challenge.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the one of the first tenets we crush in the book and in our live training is always 100% of the time treating the prospect, the client, the customer right. That it's always about that. You're always playing the long game.
Yeah.
And you're right in that when people, even if they believe that philosophically, they can fall into some really bad habits if they feel pressure because of quota, or I've got to hit my number by the end of the month or quarter or year. And a lot of the techniques that we talk about in here, whether it's neuroscience, psychology, behavioral science, a lot of those are on the, why do people say yes to things? Talking about the clients, the customers, the prospects. But a lot of them in the book are turned on ourselves too. How do we hack our own habits so that we're focused on the right thing day in and day out, so that we will hit double that quote at the end of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and there's again, to give you more of a commercial. No, but we love the framework in terms of the thinking of that. And again, we're just big fans of taking that digital component. So if you're an audience out there listening, taking that digital component of being able to prospect leads, being able to get them, generate them, process them through, get them through a process. But then once it gets kicked over, like when you go from the MQL to SQL, they've hit a certain amount of, they've watched a certain amount of videos, they've downloaded they've got enough webinars, what have you, whatever those metrics are.
Right.
Then when we then it's like, okay, here's a framework on how to continue on and kind of process them through. And also too, if you're more of a traditional outside sales too, I mean, if you got to get out there, you got to shake the bushes, if you will, or is that the right terminology? Shake the bushes, whatever.
Yeah. Let's shake the bushes.
I love one of the things is saying, hey, here's the top 100 list or the top 10, and it's almost like going after these. Like, these are my top key accounts that I'd love to have. Playing the long game here. We're not going to sell them tomorrow,
right?
And just having a framework on how to process them through, get them from they don't know you from Adam, to here, here's how we're going to move them from this stage over to, okay, we know who we are, now we're going to provide some more value, and it's all around value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the things that we talk about in the book to a large extent, which you experienced in the class, is we've found, from behavioral science perspective, 7 key steps from target in a relationship where I'd like to meet this person, but I haven't yet. And the 7th step is they're so excited about our services and how we've delivered that they are actively telling their community about us. They've turned into sort of a referral source or a raving fan, if you will. And what we see a lot of times when people move to that human part of the pipeline, like you talked about, is we tend to judge our relationships on things like, oh man, Sue hugs us. She loves us.
Yeah.
Newsflash, Sue hugs everybody. She hugs your competitor. She's a hugger. That's not a good benchmark of a relationship. So we've got 7 steps in the book and in the classes where you can look at the behavior of your customer, and that will tell you where you're at in the 7 steps. And the beauty of that is that if you know where you're at, you know what to do next.
Right. Yeah. I think that's such a big struggle is like you can get up to a certain point and you're like, oh, great. What next?
Yeah.
You know, what's the next thing? So I think that really helps, you know, to be able to kind of like facilitate that. And we've had a lot of takeaways in terms of like, hey, you know, you get stuck. Somebody's gone cold. What do you do? Like,
what do you do?
What are some options? Obviously, the objection handling is a great piece.
Yep.
You know, another piece of love, because this is echoed in the digital marketing strategy. Yeah. Is the give to get.
Oh yeah.
So talk a little about the give to get.
I love the give to get. I love it. It's there's a whole chapter on it. So let's say that that they've gone through a lot of the digital pipeline and they're interested. You know, they've attended 3 webinars, they've downloaded some white papers, whatever scoring system you got. This is a hot one, and a human calls them. Or they even reach out to us sometimes. And what do you do next? Well, the key in that first interaction is to get another interaction. And to your point before, a lot of times people on that first phone call, that first face-to-face, they try to sort of go all the way to selling the farm, getting married on the first date, little awkward.
Yeah, see how that goes.
Yeah. Look, I brought all these paraphernalia and sheets I'll leave with you, and here's our pricing, and would you like me to send a proposal?
Right.
You know, it's just too much. So instead of trying to get married on the first date, let's date a while. So what the give to get does is it says, you are such an important prospect of ours. You know, and you can be really specific and authentic because you are, you know, a Fortune 20 company, or you're in this space, or you're whatever the criteria are. Be genuine, but if it's true, say, because of that criteria, we want to invest in you. We would like to fly in Jane from the whatever plant to spend, you know, a couple hours with you, evaluating what you're doing now and providing some guidance on what you might be able to do better. And that might be, there's 4 major ways of thinking, so there's 4 major give to gets. It might be a strategy session, and it might be an evaluation of your process. It might be a look at your numbers and how you might be able to prove some kind of efficiency or ROI or value. Or it might be a networking event where we'll connect you with somebody else that's done the things you're looking to do. So those are 4 ways of thinking we work through, and those are the 4 major give to gets. And what we might do then is, in that first meeting, say, hey, would it be helpful if we did the thing, whatever it is, whatever's appropriate, and get that second meeting and the first meeting where we're back in front, we're offering value right out of the gate, we're giving first as opposed to throwing proposals at them, like Machine Gun Nelly, and they are so excited to get that gift that there's some reciprocity and they want to give back to us, and now we've started the whole relationship in a fantastic way where we're helping as opposed to selling. Is that where you wanted to go?
Absolutely, yeah. Providing value.
Providing value. Bingo.
Provide value.
Exactly. And then if we've lined up that, what we go into great detail in the book is, we've got our eye on these really big projects, or really big work we could do with somebody, and then we're aiming in that direction, but our give to get is very aligned with that. So what we would want to happen at the end of the give to get is somebody says, gosh, this has been amazing. You've added so much value. You know, what would it look like if we worked together to do the stuff we just covered?
Oh, well.
Let me show you.
Exactly.
And you almost get them asking, the prospect asking, gosh, how can we work together? We love you guys.
It's like testing out the relationship, and
it
just
is.
Kind of, you know, it's like let's to provide value, and it's the natural lead. It's like, oh, this was awesome.
Exactly. I like that word test. It's like a taste of the experience of working together. We're on this, like you said before, we're sort of like on the same side of the table, working together to accomplish something, and the behavioral science behind give to gets is amazing. I can go into it if you want, but Dr. Robert Cialdini out of Arizona State, the super quick version is, he found 6 major things that were influential to human beings. The give to get's the only technique I've ever seen that hits all 6.
Wow. That's interesting.
That's
awesome.
Super powerful. Much more powerful than it appears.
Well, listen, I'm just excited. I hope a lot of our viewers go get this book. And in just a minute, I'll share like where they can go get that and take a look at everything. But as we're wrapping up here, we could go on for hours and hours and hours.
I thought we were going to stay till like 8 p.m. I told my family I was going to miss dinner. And
dang it. We could. Maybe. Okay. I might have to get the bourbon out. But
I'm in.
I thought you might be. So, any last, as we wrap up, any last parting thoughts that you want to leave with our audience?
I would say there's three big things to handle for growth. And I'll give these to everybody in the audience because you can sort of evaluate how you're doing in these three areas. The three areas are, how are you managing your opportunities, and are you using a proven behavioral science method to guide your prospects from one step to the next, and are you proactive about guiding them? The second thing is, how are you managing your relationships? Relationships are different than opportunities because, of course, some of your relationships are people that can buy things, but other people are referral sources. There are people who call on the same people you do, but maybe they don't sell the same thing, so they're partners of yours. So how can you orchestrate the growth and the deepening of your relationships, or are you doing that in a systematic way? And then the third thing is, how do you manage yourself? It's so easy in sales and account management to fall back to a reactive mode, to almost judge your efficiency by, did you keep your email load down? But what that does is it pulls you into being super reactive for the people that are reaching out. And you want to manage yourself in that third bucket of, how can I be proactive and go after the big targets that maybe we haven't in yet, but we need to, because it's a crying shame they're not buying from us. So manage your opportunities, manage your relationships, manage yourself. We go into great detail in the book on those. But when people are really humming on all three of those, that's when they're winning.
That's awesome. No, it's great. Oh my gosh, so many nuggets, so many, the snowball thing is perfect. I mean, it makes sense. You just start small.
You start small, think big, start small, scale up.
Totally makes sense.
I love it.
Mo, thanks so much for coming on.
Really
I've been
looking forward to this for forever.
Me too. We're super excited. So I know this is gonna be a big hit with our audience, and they're gonna eat this up.
Good.
So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right. So you heard it. The Snowball System, Mo Bunnel with Bunnell Idea Group. It's awesome. You can get this if you go to snowballsystem.com. You can get this awesome book. Listen, I'm telling you, we've gone through this, and it's a game changer, and it's really going to help to complement those digital marketing strategies that you're looking to implement and you're putting in. It's going to really help with your sales and market. Look, we know that there's a gap. We really want to bring the alignment between sales and marketing together, and this is a great way of doing it. It really leads into a lot of things we talk about here on IndustrialSage.com. And also, I got a little note here. There's also some more information on CreateDemandCourse.com. There's a lot of other information there, and I believe an 8-part video series. That is our free digital marketing for the viewers. They're even doing that. That's great.
Yes, well, we love using you guys. So if somebody wants an 8-part series on creating demand that covers some of the things we talked about, but in a lot more depth, it's free. You go to CreateDemandCourse.com. You sign up, and you'll get all that great content.
Awesome. Well, you guys should be familiar with that because that's what you guys are all doing, hopefully. So again, Snowball Systems, so snowballsystem.com and createdemandcourse.com. And man, this has been an awesome episode. A lot of takeaways. Probably too many to cover right now. We could have gone on for hours and hours, but you know what? The reality of it is, provide value, really manage those relationships. I think a big key takeaway that Mo talked about at the end is that everybody that you're going after might not necessarily be a sale, okay? And that's a big, but there's still a lot of value there. Provide value to them. They could be a referral source. And so anyways, and the other piece is really just thinking about that thinking profile. Not everybody thinks the way that you and I might think. And so when it comes to selling that, you might have to retool or rephrase. Like if you're very I'm the people person versus, big ideas, and that, might be a little bit of a struggle. You got to retool that a little bit. So anyways, awesome episode. I can't encourage you enough to go take a look at this. Go get this book, snowballsystem.com. That was a joke I made earlier. That's coming back. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them on the show, IndustrialSage.com/questions. If you're on iTunes, we'd love a review. And feel free to share our content on social media. We'd love it. So for this episode, I'm done. I'm going to stop yapping. I'm Danny. Thanks for watching Industrial Sage.